Good morning and welcome back for another Wild Wisdom Wellbeing guest slot with me, Robin Harris of Equenergy Wild Wellbeing. And if you're a regular for watching these slots, you'll know that the last couple had to be postponed. But fingers crossed, we're all go for this morning. And today I have the wonderful Jan Baker of Aroma Oils Limited with me. And I am delighted that Jan can join me because I have known a lot about essential oils since my mum trained to be a clinical aromatherapist many years ago. And I had to be the guinea pig for all of her testing of oil blends and massage. And it was such hard work. I loved it. I fell in love. I love plant-based remedies and all of those sorts of things anyway, but essential oils have intrigued me for years, and I've been on workshops and so on. So Jan, I'm so delighted that you could join us today and can help to enlighten me more, I'm sure, and to share with the group a little bit more about essential oils and all the wonderful ways in which they can support our well-being. But first of all, just to introduce you a little bit more, I know that you are local to Wales, born and mostly lived in Wales throughout your life, though you have popped over to England for a short period of time. And that you were initially an office worker and then took a break to raise your children and then decided to become a teacher. And following that, went into essential oils and started your new business during the COVID-19 lockdown. I am so impressed. I think that is such an amazing leap of faith, but also you have done so well. So congratulations on that. So maybe if you would start by telling us a little bit more about who is Jan and what got you into aromatherapy?
Well, it was quite simple, really. I was teaching lots and lots of hours, but my husband actually had an accident. He fell 15 feet from a ceiling, landed on a ladder and broke all his knee and smashed all his knee up. So he's got a plastic bone graft, a titanium plate with about 7 screws in it. We bought a hot tub at the time, which wasn't fashionable at all because it was the nearest thing to a hydrotherapy pool that we could get. But I thought, they said, oh, you're not going to work. And I thought, well, this is no good. I mean, this was about 20 years ago. This is absolutely no good. So I used to go for a massage because I loved them. So I got chatting to my local aromatherapist at the time, who unfortunately is no longer in the area now. And so she said, oh, have a try of these oils and this is what you do with them. And she kind of gave me a little bit of training with it. And then that snowballed then into me treating the rest of the family, apart from my daughter, who's very skeptical, but she's on board now. And then I got to treating friends. People were saying, oh, my back is bad. Well, let me give you something for your back. And then they'd think, oh, that worked and that was fine. And when we got to the point in teaching where I was working 70 hours a week, I was very stressed. I was getting very ill. I had cellulitis twice, an ear infection, a chest infection. And then they suddenly said, oh, by the way, you've done all this work. Thank you very much. But they've changed the A-level funding and your job is now being made redundant. I thought, right, okay, at that point, I need to find something to do because I didn't want to stay in teaching because it was making me ill. Then my mum got ill and then my daughter had a baby. So I needed something that I could really tailor to the family and something that had more flexibility. So got qualified. I thought, well, it's my hobby, it's my passion. Let's do something with it and do something that I'm going to really enjoy. I enjoyed teaching. I absolutely loved it, but let's do something, on the wellbeing side that is so important. And that's how Aroma Oils was born, really. And then we opened in October, got shut down for a week, opened again, got shut down for fire break, opened again, bought a pile of stock for a market on the 21st of December and got shut down on the 20th till May.
That's a challenging start. So just the fact that you stuck with it just goes to show your passion and your commitment and your belief in what you're sharing.
I think it's really important. Well-being is such a huge thing at the moment, especially with the pandemic and the anxiety levels are going through the roof. The relaxed rollerball that we do is probably my best seller. And that's just a combination. It's quite simple, of lavender and mandarin together, because florals always work well with citrus oils. And you should always try and combine them if possible, because then you get the best synergy. And it is about synergy.
Mm.
Yeah. So, and it's, people they spend a lot of time in front of the computer, so their shoulders are always really bad. People have bad backs from sitting down, sports people. There are so many people that need some sort of support, and you can't get a GP's appointment at the moment. It's really difficult, I'm finding. So I just thought that although it was lockdown, it was such an important thing to do, to try and make sure that people had access to some form of help while all this was going on.
And I think, like you're saying, because of GPs and hospitals and so on, they're all overrun, aren't they? So self-help, the things that we can do to support ourselves, either just where we are right now, or even in terms of getting better, and our bodies, supporting our body's own natural healing processes, is just so important at the moment.
Yeah.
So,
go on, sorry.
No, carry on.
Yeah. No, I was going to say, and I just think that, trying to educate people to do this is really important as well, because it's not something that you automatically think of. You wouldn't dream of going out in the car without putting petrol in it. But people don't think about the fact that they actually need to refuel their bodies as well.
Yeah. And the same with our phones. We wouldn't go without charging our phones, but we don't look at having a rest and a break and a proper recharge for ourselves. We end up often going to bed exhausted and waking up exhausted. We're not getting that quality sleep in between. So we're not properly recharging. Yeah,
and sleep is so very important for everything. It's where I've got a Rejuvenate with Jan page on my Facebook, and I tend to work through topics, and we've done a skin topic, which it lasted quite a while, because obviously it covers the whole body. And then I did a massive sleep topic. So if anybody needs any advice on sleep, there's just look at the hashtag sleep, and there's loads of stuff on there. At the moment, we're tackling head lice, because obviously we've all gone back to school. And next coming up is gout, because I've just got somebody in now who's struggling a little bit with it.
And quite often you think it's an old-fashioned dis-ease, gout, but I've known people with it myself, so it's still around.
Yeah, it is literally just an arthritis of a joint, gout, and people don't realize that it can happen in your hands as well. It's not just necessarily your big toe. What you've got to do with it, and this is something that I'll talk about a little bit later, if we get on to discussing how it can help you, because I find it quite interesting where it takes you as well. So I won't say any more yet.
And that's just from your hint there, I think that's probably going to touch on the area that I'm passionate about, looking at the causes behind the dis-eases that we experience, because quite often we just look at the surface level, don't we? Oh, my skin has an itch, or it's a bit flaky, or I've got a rash, whatever that might be. But why? And I love that you took so long over skin, partly because it covers the whole of the body, but it's also our biggest detox organ. And it's the organ that shows up it's a good one for indicating that there's something not right, isn't it? Whether that's gut, or, well, it's probably going to include gut and detoxing and stress. All of these things that can be going on in our body can show up in our skin, which is a great thing for just paying attention to those things that we might think of are little niggles, and they don't really matter. It's not important. It's like that advert on TV that says, oh, it's just this, it's just that. So I just have a bit of an itch or whatever. Get it checked, because that, if you get it sorted at that early stage, it doesn't need to go any further.
And this is the thing, 85% of all skin conditions are stress related. No doubt about it. You get a couple that are hormonal related. If you get a hyperkeratosis on your feet, excuse me, which is like a thickening of the skin, that will generally last about 7 years, and that's very much to do with your menopausal changes. So there are a couple that are not so stress related.
Yeah, but stress will still have an impact though, won't it? Because
stress
impacts on our hormones.
And if you think about it, you get flare-ups. Well, when are you getting your flare-ups, and why are you getting your flare-ups? It's because you get overstressed.
Yeah. Exactly. So then you touched a little bit on essential oils and how they work and all of that. Can you tell us exactly what are essential oils? Obviously, they're plant-based, but what are they?
They're the essence of the plant, basically, and you get your essential oil from all different parts of the plant. So, for example, orange you get from the rind, but jasmine would have to be a resin-based because it is such a delicate flower. You couldn't steam distill it or you'd kill it. It takes, if you're wondering why essential oils are so expensive, it takes about 30 rose bushes to produce 1 drop of rose essential oil. So this is why, you look at them, you think, oh, that's a bit pricey, but this is why. It's because of the fact that, they take so long and they are such a delicate thing to produce. And you can steam distill them. That's probably the biggest one that they do. You can macerate them. So if you wanted to make your own, you could literally get some lavender out of the garden, put it in oil and leave it. And eventually that lavender would infuse the oil and you could use it. So, there's lots of things and lots of ways that they can be used, but you've got all parts. I mean, ginger is a root, but sandalwood is a wood. So it just depends. And depending on the part of the plant that you use, that gives it its different properties. This is why you have clove bud and clove leaf. So, and they have completely separate, and they're drug-free. And I say chemical-free, but you have to be very cautious when saying it's chemical-free because all essential oils are organic. So they have a chemical composition. It's just not synthetic. So when I talk about it being chemical-free, I mean that it's not the big pharma companies producing all these chemicals that have all these side effects. It's just a shame that they didn't do more work on it. And in the 60s, the pharma companies realized they couldn't patent a plant and then decided that they were going off to make all this chemical stuff. Because what did we use beforehand?
Yeah. And the thing is, when you get it from a plant, yes, you have to be careful because those are still chemical compounds and they are very strong because when you talk about 30 rose bushes for 1 drop of oil, highly, highly concentrated. And some of them have components in them that they can make our skin sensitive, particularly in light and all of these sorts of things. So it is important to go to somebody who knows, like yourself, how to use them, which parts of the body and when and to what dilution it's safe. But they are so effective then because they are strong. And also because they aren't synthetic, they are naturally occurring, then they are slightly different every time, aren't they? So the bacteria and so on.
It very much depends on, you can get lavender, if you grow it at different altitudes, it gives you a completely different type of lavender.
And there are different kinds anyway, because there's French lavender and there's other.
Yeah, you've got lavender stockade. So there are about 4 or 5 different lavenders. I've got a friend who's epileptic, for example, and she tells me, I can't use lavender, really can't. And I said, no, you can't use spike lavender. I said, true lavender is absolutely fine for you. So you've just got to know, and this is where the expertise comes in. You have to know you can't use certain eucalyptuses on children. So you have to use a radiator on a child, but not the globulus. And the globulus is the one that they mostly sell. So you've got to be very careful. And this is why it's always best, if possible, to use a specialist. But I mean, there are guidelines that we can give you. And I will eventually be running a class on sort of home blending and how to do it when I get around to doing it. But the contraindications, which is things you have to be careful of, are quite specific. You get different blends for different types of people. A child and an elderly person will need a different strength to somebody who is fit and healthy. Somebody who is very overweight can take a stronger blend than somebody who isn't. And then you've got to be careful of the oils themselves. I say to people, can you please tell me what medication you're on? And they kind of look at you a bit strange. And I go, no, it's because I need to know which oils that I need to use safely. So rosemary, for example, is a really good example because it interferes with any homeopathic medicine. It also, you can't use it for people who are epileptic, people who are on aspirin, and people who have high blood pressure. You've got to be very, very careful. Pregnancy is another minefield, absolute minefield. There's a whole host of oils that you can't use. And you shouldn't be doing a lot of massage in the first trimester anyway, because obviously, you know, you need to wait until your pregnancy is very stable before you start investigating oils. There are a few you can use. And with the massage, you've then got to be careful because you have uterine points. So you've got to avoid those as well. So it's a lot more involved than people think, you know, in just turning up and say, oh, I'll just have a bit of a massage and a bit of a rub. There's a lot to involved in it.
And particularly because if you are feeling stressed and, you know, you're tired or whatever, and you want to maybe use a few oils in the bath, you need to be careful which ones you use, because it could lower your blood pressure. Absolutely. Particularly if the water is warm as well.
Yeah.
So, you know, you get in the bath, you add a few oils and you think, wonderful, and then you're feeling really dizzy when you try to get out or whatever, and that can be...
Yeah, it is really important. A nice little tip though is if you are going to put oils in the bath, put them in milk, because oil and water don't mix, and therefore it makes your bath very slippery. So if you put it in a bit of milk, you get the emulsifying, and it's not slippy.
Great tip. So having said all of that about oils, and there was another point as well, you were talking about what did we use before? We used plant-based things like aspirin, we used willow bark.
Yeah.
And how, when you have that whole compound from the plant that isn't synthesized and just is a standardized form, when you have the whole compound from the plant, then you have all of the things that come in with that actually work in synergy. Again, you've got the blending of everything in the plant, and you have fewer side effects naturally anyway. I heard about hawthorn. Obviously, we know hawthorn has a lot of benefits, good properties within it, and it's used to support the heart and circulation. And I heard a company in Germany was trying to isolate what chemical compound is it within that so that we can synthesize it. And every time they think they found it and they test it, it's not the right one. Oh, it must be one of the others then. But perhaps it's actually the blend and how the plant creates that. That's the beneficial.
It is. Every essential oil is basically a hydrocarbon. And so, I mean, the chemical composition can get quite complicated, but basically what happens is that they link. And it's the links that causes your synergy. And that's what really helps. And this is why it's better to use them together than not. And it's quite interesting because when I was talking about gout then, and you were saying about all the different things that you can do. So with gout, it's a buildup of what we call uric acid. Now, there are quite a few things now you've got to look at because you think, oh, hang on, you've got a bit of inflammation in your toe. So you need something to take away the uric acid. You then need to find out why the uric acid is building up. So is it what you're eating? Is it the cause of the fact that your kidneys are not processing it properly? And then, you know, you have to look at maybe your diet. So if you have foods high in a substance called purine, that's P-U-R-I-N-E in purine, and they are generally scallops and seafood and meat and offal and things, then you should avoid them because they create uric acid. So you shouldn't eat them. So there you go down the holistic route of, right, let's look at your diet. You've also then, and this is where it comes in, this is where I get very interested in it, and where you come in, Robin, is the two oils that you need to get rid of uric acid are lemongrass and ginger. And those two oils are the oils for your solar plexus. And your solar plexus is your confidence and your self-esteem. So a lot of people who have gout tend to be slightly obese or slightly overweight. And as you know, being overweight can cause issues with self-esteem. So it is very much then, you know, the light bulb goes on then, oh, hang on a minute, is that where it's coming from? And is that the root of it? And is that what we need to look at to make sure that the flare-ups don't happen? I just find it really fascinating.
Certainly it's something to address. And for me, it's not only that if you're feeling a little bit overweight, that's going to potentially cause you self-esteem issues, but perhaps you are a little bit larger than you want to be because your self-esteem isn't good. It's kind of a a cyclical thing, that one.
Yeah.
But also musculoskeletal issues are self-esteem based anyway.
Yeah.
So obviously that's going to impact on joints.
Mm.
So yes, and I love the way, no matter which way you come at this, if you follow it through, you get to the same thing.
Yeah.
If you keep on going far enough.
Mm.
And I love that it works whether you're looking at energies, so the chakras, or you're looking at the physical, so you've got a pain in your joint and it's uric acid, or you're whatever it is that you're looking at, you still get to that same point.
Yeah, I think it's really important, because much as doctors are very, very expert at what they do, generally they give you tablets and they send you away because they don't have the time, because of the amount of people that they see, to actually delve into this, where a complementary therapist and somebody who works, very much on the holistic side of things, they have the time and the expertise to devote to it. So it's really important that we do get the services out there and that people can access them, I think.
And I completely agree. And a GP, your first port of call generally when you're experiencing some form of disease, is just that they are a general practitioner. And it would be surprising, I think, to most people to find out how much time GPs get on stress or diet. They're just not taught these things. So, and because they have to know so much, unless they are somebody who's interested in that specifically themselves and they choose to follow up on it, they're not going to know it. Whereas a complementary therapist has probably specialized in a particular area. So they're not so much of a general practitioner. They're probably quite a niched specialist. So it's, again, when you're looking for a practitioner, to look for the one who specializes in the area that you're actually wanting support in.
Yeah, I mean, I deal with muscles and essential oils. There's absolutely no point coming to me if you have a bone issue, because I can give you some oils to help you with the pain, but I can't actually heal your bone. So, absolutely, I agree. Yeah.
So can you tell us a little bit more then about how essential oils, something you rub on your skin, how does that help you with a dis-ease? If you have gout or whatever it is, you said that it helps to disperse the uric acid. How, when you're putting it on your skin?
Basically, what happens with it is you get your essential. Now, essential oils believe it or not, they love fat. They love it. And rosemary acts like a little dart if you can use it, and it pulls all the essential oils through. What you've got to be careful of is that it will also pull through any other chemicals that you have on your skin as well. So if you've already put your highly fragranced body lotion on, that will go in as well. So you've got to be a bit careful about using them. And it attaches to the fatty part under your skin. And it gets into the bloodstream. And then it goes wherever it needs because it's in your bloodstream. Now, the other way that you do it, I think massage and probably the diffuser and using the oils in a burner is probably the two most obvious ones of using essential oils. With the smell, it goes into your limbic system in the brain. And your limbic system affects so many things. So it actually physically, chemically helps in your body. And you've got this. When your body is very stressed, you tend to go into fight or flight. And what the essential oils do is that they calm it down and take it back down to balance. And that's really important, is that you keep the balance. And I'm forever nagging people when they come to me with their shoulders and their neck. And they come and we do 3 or 4 sessions of intensive work on it, and it's starting to get better. And then all of a sudden they disappear for weeks and weeks on end. And I'm saying to them, you need to come back because you need to maintain this now. Otherwise, it's going to get back to the same and it's going to get worse. And they're like, no, I'm fine. And then a couple of months later, here they pop up again and they're back to normal and their shoulders really sore. And I've actually got to start again because everything is bunched up. Everything has gone tight. So I think it's the maintenance as well is the important thing. But you can use the oils in so many other ways. You can use them in room sprays. You can use them in oil sprays on your skin. You can put them in lotions. You can have roller balls. You can use them on wood to buff up your wood. And you can put them on the fire and get all this beautiful smell and all this beautiful effect of them. Be careful with a couple of them with pets though, because you need to make sure Lang Lang is not very good for dogs. You should not be using Lang Lang for dogs, for example, because it's over time, and it is over time, it becomes a bit poisonous for them. So you just need to be a bit careful if you've got pets. But that's basically what happens, is it goes into your system. Now, if you drop radiata, if you drop eucalyptus smithy on your elbow, within seconds you can taste it. It goes right the way up and you can taste it. And people go, no, you can't. And I do it and they go, oh.
Oh, yes, you can.
Yeah.
And I know that you have to be careful around cats, because cats aren't good with a lot of essential
depends.
oils.
If you're going to burn oils and in a diffuser with cats, do it in a room that they don't go in very often, or just keep them out of that room for the period that you've got it on. You shouldn't be diffusing oils all day, every day anyway. It's not good for you. Half an hour bursts at a time is absolutely plenty, and make sure you get out and have some fresh air as well, because that's really important.
Yeah. And there was something else I was going to say there. It slipped my mind now. But you were talking about getting back to balance, and it's kind of like you talked about the car analogy earlier, how we always fill our car up with petrol. We also get our car serviced. So that's all it is, really. It's just making sure that our bodies, it's that self-care, isn't it, really? It's not, I'm going to, if you go regularly, it's not, I'm going to go back and do a full overhaul every single time. Like, you don't do full services on your car every year. But there are little things to do just to keep things in balance. And you talked about bringing the limbic system back down. So it's like when we get into fight or flight, we are not using our executive functioning in our brain, and we can end up making not so good choices and decisions because we're reacting. We're reacting out of fear and fight or flight. Whereas if we can calm down that limbic system and get it to the point of, okay, I'm feeling more balanced now, then we have greater clarity, we make better decisions, we have better judgment. So for all of these reasons, it's so good to do this kind of self-care.
Yeah, it's not selfish at all to look after yourself, because ultimately stress affects everything. It affects your well-being, it affects your life, it affects your relationships. And if you are not in a position to be, balanced enough to be dealing with stuff, then, there comes a point where I would recommend having a few flags put into place so that you get to the point where you think to yourself, oh, hang on a minute, before it actually gets, further down the line. Now, for me, crisps are my stress food, believe it or not. So if I catch myself eating more than one packet of crisps a day, I'm like, oh, hang on a minute, what's going on here? And that's a flag for me. And I think to myself, what's triggered that now? Why have I done it? But I'm aware enough of it to be able to do it. I think it's because I just went through such a bad time with school that I kind of got to the point where I said, well, I'm not going to do that again. And and it's the truth that if you don't make time for your wellness, then your illness will force you to.
Yes,
it really will.
You'll have to make time for your illness. Yeah. And I love that you've said that if you can notice your your flags, so notice the things that your body is telling you, because our body always, like we talked about skin, it's there going, there's this little thing that just needs your attention. And if we listen when it's whispering, we won't need to get to the point where it's shouting at us. I've got a friend, I've heard of a couple of people who just wake up one morning and their back has seized and they can't get out of bed. So this is where, if you haven't listened to those little nudges that and you haven't made time for your self-care in your wellness, you will have to make time for your illness, because your body may just get to the point where it says, I'm not doing anymore. I'm stopping right here. And for me, it was ME. So when I was late teens, I got ME, and that was it. I was out of action for months. And believe me, you don't want to be there. But it's like you said as well, when you've been to that degree and you just say, no way, I'm not going back there. Right. I need to kind of look back and see what were the little signs that were there. It's just starting to identify them. And that's why I run a workshop that helps people to develop what I call like a vocabulary. so that we know when the stress is coming. I've eaten 2 bags of crisps today, or I can just feel my shoulders getting closer and closer to my ears, or my big toes playing up, or my skin's playing up. Whoa, that's a flag for me. That's a stress. Where am I stressed? Where is this stress in my life? But also to develop a vocabulary for, this is how I feel when I'm feeling good. This is what that looks like. Because then we've got a kind of a map, haven't we? A roadmap of, I am here, I want to be here. How do I make that shift?
Yeah, there's no way you can get anywhere unless you have a destination.
Yeah.
Because how do you know where you're going? How can you plot it?
And how do you know when you get closer to it or you arrive there?
Yeah, exactly. So I think it's just so important, and it's trying to sort of educate people to let them know that this is the important thing to do, because everybody is so busy, and it's not something that they naturally do. People will go on holiday. Oh, I'll have a massage.
Yeah.
Great, because I'm on holiday. Why aren't you having one at home? Because you know the benefits of it.
Yeah, and also there's that saying that we don't know how good our bodies are meant to feel. And when we're in fight or flight, which we're only supposed to be in for 10 to 15 minutes at a time, really, that's what's our body is designed to go through that, but to go through it and come out the other side. Whereas we're often in that state, quite a chronic way, maybe low level, but it's there in a chronic way. Versus if we could just use these things, and it doesn't have to be a massage, so you can still use oils. You can have a massage to do your MOT or your quick service or your deeper service, and then you can have the other things in between, the roller balls that you mentioned. And I highly recommend taking a look at Jan's website. She has so many products on there. I was looking through them this morning. It's so impressive, and such a range of massages, so you don't have to have the full body every time, and some of them are really quick. So if you just wanted to go in and have a head massage, and that sounds like a really lovely thing to do, it's quick, and you can carry on then, just get back to your day. So it doesn't have to be a huge, big chunk of time.
No, it's surprising, because you carry a lot of stress in your jaw. You carry an awful lot of stress in your hands and your feet, obviously, especially. I mean, I don't do reflexology per se, but I do the reflexology points on the foot when I do the foot massage. So that is actually, working through your system, and it's 10 minutes.
It's amazing. I love reflexology, because I was saying about my mum training, she did reflexology as well. It's something, I've never been somebody who sleeps easily. Well, not until my mum worked on my feet. Yeah. Now I don't really have a problem most of the time, because I used to fall asleep on the massage couch and be really embarrassed. But now I know. Yeah, now I know that's actually a great compliment. Being a therapist myself, I love it when people yawn and get sleepy, because it's a sign that, whoa, they've let go of their stress.
Yeah. Or the best one for me is if I'm doing a massage and all of a sudden I hear a, oh,
yes,
and I think, gotcha. That's what I listen for. I listen for the oh.
And that's a point then. That point triggered that sigh or that release.
That's it. Yeah. And it's quite funny sometimes, because if they very often don't realize where the sore points are on their back. And it can be quite low down on their lumbar area, or it can be in their rhomboid, which is just the back of your scapula here. And they move your arms, and all of a sudden I will press a tender point, and I'll go, and you'll feel them go, oh, because I've suddenly made it a pain shoot right the way up into their ear or something while I'm working on that muscle, because I'm working on a trigger point.
Yeah.
And afterwards, when the trigger point is all nice and relaxed, it's like I can move.
Easily. It doesn't click anymore or crunch or it's a smooth movement. Yeah. And I love that our bodies are connected. So you were saying about putting a drop of oil and then you taste it, but also like you were saying about touching a point here and it shoots all the way up. And the feet, that there are points on the feet that you can touch and it has an impact on all of your inner organs or whatever. I think the human body is just so amazing.
Oh, it's incredible. If you look on your hands and your feet and you have dry points on your hands and your feet, and they're very specific, I guarantee you that will relate to something in your body that's not quite right.
Mm.
Now, I know for me, it's a digestive system because I have a bit of an intolerance to wheat and yeast. So I can guarantee where my digestive bits are, I'm going to have, like I've got a tiny little ridge there that is quite hard, and nowhere else, just there. So I know that's going to relate to something in my body, and I've got to go and look up to find out what it is. And again, there you pay attention before it gets to the point where it's a problem.
Isn't it just amazing? Human body, it has all of this information for us if we can just learn how to read it, how to interpret it.
Yeah. And I think that's the thing, it's teaching people how to do it.
Yes.
Is the big thing, so that they are confident enough to go, oh, hang on a minute, and not get to the point where they're walking in because they've got terrible dizzy spells and they can't work.
And it's also letting people know that is possible. You don't have to rely, you don't have to wait and wait and wait until it's bad enough to go to the doctor or to A&E or whatever it might be. If you can spot these little flags as early as possible, then you can learn how to support yourself so that you don't need to then go and seek help because you've already sorted it. Yeah. And it's such an empowering feeling and such a feeling of agency over your own self in your body and just everything in life.
I mean, that's the ideal to aim for, definitely, if you can get to that point. And it really does help. And I'm lucky now that I have completely switched around everything that I've done. So I am at a point now where I am happy with where I am and where the business is going and how many people that I'm actually helping. And that's my kind of, what's the word? I'm trying to think I can't think of the word now. Satisfaction, I guess. Knowing that people go out of my clinic feeling much better than when they came in, or at least if they come in for a pain blend or something, I know it's going to help them when they get home. Because peppermint and lavender have the same chemical composition as aspirin. So you can use, there are lots of oils that you use. Chamomile is very good for inflammation. You've got the 5 that I would use as a therapist. I would use, depending on medical conditions, rosemary. Then marjoram is very good for muscles. You have peppermint, lavender, and chamomile. And they are all your analgesic oils. And you mix them together. Be careful with marjoram, though, because if you use it for long periods of time, it can make you very drowsy. And then people wonder why they come in for a massage and I'm using these pain oils on them because they've got a bad shoulder or they've got a bad back. They're wondering why they're getting off the bed yawning, and then they go home and they're flat out, absolutely flat out sleeping. And it's the nature of the oils as much as, and they are safe. They have to be. My hands are in them all day. So if anybody was going to have a reaction to them, it would be me. But they're properly blended. You take great care with certain oils that cause skin sensitivity. Basil is one you've got to be a bit careful of with liver. And as long as that they are properly blended and that you use them properly, they're a really great way of helping your body and supporting your body in being well balanced and well.
And I love that, and that you can get to the point where you have this range of oils or approaches to choose from. And if it gets to a level where you want to go to get some support, like my shoulder is hurting, I need something now to get it back to balance, and then all I'll need is maintenance and a top up and a little bit of self-care beyond that, and then I'm good to go. And that it gets us to the point as well of like you just said, joy, bringing the joy back versus the stress and the tension and all of that we often have in our lives.
It is. It's a wonderful, wonderful thing. It really is.
So you mentioned earlier about rose oil, and it's 30 bushes for 1 drop of oil.
Yes.
And that's why it can be quite expensive. So is it important, because there are oils of all different ranges of prices out there, and you might be tempted to think, why am I going to pay that amount when I could buy it for that amount. So is there a way of knowing how to choose a good quality oil that is a proper essential oil, not just something that smells nice?
Yeah, there is. You have certain oils that will give you the Latin name, and generally they are your therapeutic grade oils. So if you want the benefits of the therapeutic oil, for example, taking the inflammation away or taking the pain away, you generally have to go down the route of getting the ones with the Latin names on and making sure that you've got the therapeutic grade oils, which is the ones that I would use. The colour of the oil as well. If an oil is very cloudy, then you have to make sure that you throw it away. The two things that you need to be careful with oils is heat and water. They don't do well with either. This is why whenever you see any self recipes on the internet, they'll always say, take something off the boil before you add the essential oils. And if you put, and this is why they come in little dark bottles, is to protect them from sunlight. So make sure that if you're buying an oil, it's in a dark bottle, because you know then that it's properly bottled. Watch the colour of it. If it's very cloudy, throw it away, it's no good. The thing, and it always makes me laugh when I say this, air gets into everything. The more air you have in something, the greater it will oxidize. And once it starts to oxidize, it starts to go cloudy. So when you get to the bottom of a bottle of oil, that's the one where you've got to be careful of it. And every oil has a shelf life, so you need to be quite careful. Some of them are 6 months. Borage oil is 6 months. You can have some that last up to 6 years. So you just need to have a look and be careful of the shelf life. But when we age, we are literally rusting from the inside because we are oxidizing, because we have to use oxygen, because it oxidizes everything. And this is, everybody laughs at me when I say that, but it's quite true. So there are things to look for. Again, you can check out with the therapeutics to make sure you've got the right type of oil. So you need to be careful that you're using, because German chamomile is completely different from Roman chamomile. So you need to be very careful about which one you use to make sure that you've got the right therapeutic use as well. But I have actually on my website, I don't know whether you saw it, I've actually got an A to Z of all the oils on there for sale, and it's in a spreadsheet, and it's literally everything you could possibly want: the chemical composition, the definitions, you've got the shelf life, what the plant looks like, where it's come from, what the properties are, what you use them for, what your contraindications are, everything. It's the whole, and it's about 60 oils on there with about 30 carrier oils as well. And you've got the herbal oils then as well. It goes right the way across the range. It's quite a body of work. It took me quite a few months to put together, but I got fed up of looking in my different books for information, and I thought, oh, there's got to be an easy way of accessing what I need when I need it, just to check something. So
yeah,
I
put it all together in one place, for goodness sake, rather than all these different books.
Yeah. Yes, so it's
really,
but it gives you some of the chemical compositions as well. And linalool is one of the big chemical things that we use, and that's the beautiful stuff that we use, that does a lot of the good stuff. Some of the ones you've got to be really careful of, because they are quite like wintergreen. They are quite strong oils, and you've got to be very careful how you use them, and never, ever, ever, ever take them orally. I don't care what they say in America. You should not be taking oils orally unless an expert has told you to use it. The only thing that I would ever use orally probably is probably a bit of peppermint, neat peppermint for toothache and stuff, things like that. But other than that, never ever drink them, because they're not good for you. Use the tea instead.
Yeah, there are always other options, aren't there?
Use the tea instead. And it's quite funny, because people look at me really stupidly when they say, oh, my knee is hurting, it's a bit inflamed. And I say, have you got any chamomile tea? And they go, no. So I give them a cup, and I said, no, don't drink it, mind. I said, what you do, I said, is you steep it in water, hot water, like builder's tea, really strong. Let it cool, because you don't want to burn yourself. Tip it on a flannel, and then put the flannel on your knee and leave it. Because even though it's tea, you've still got the property of the chamomile with the anti-inflammatory and the analgesic in the tea. And it would work the same with ginger, peppermint, And people, they just look at me silly, and then they try it and they go, do you know what, that worked? And I go, yeah, I know.
But then if you think about what people might have done years ago, just making a compress, and they would have gone out and they would have picked some mint or whatever, steeped it, like you're saying, and chamomile flowers, you can grow these things.
Yeah,
When I first looked into some of these oils, and I was thinking, oh, these sound so exotic, like yarrow. And then I noticed when I find out what a yarrow plant looks like, oh, they grow along the side of the motorway or dual carriageways. They're all there in the verge. That's yarrow. And now I've got it growing up in the field. But I love yarrow. It's a great oil if you've got cuts and things, and a great oil to work on your energies too.
Yeah. Helichrysum is everlasting. It's quite funny because helichrysum sounds very posh, really, really posh, but it's just the everlasting plant. But yeah, chamomile is actually the daisy, and it's probably one of the only ones that we actually grow naturally here in Great Britain. The rest of them tend to get imported from other places. You know, if you go to France, you'll know that there are massive lavender fields everywhere. But the oils are, and the best thing to do is get about 10, possibly 20 oils, depending on how far you want to go down the aromatherapy route. Just get to know them really well, so you know what to use them for, because you can guarantee you can use a lot of them for a lot of different things. And you don't need to be spending, I mean, I've got rose and rose and rose and rose and rose oils, but you don't need to be spending that amount of money on that amount of oils to keep in your cupboard. And the ones that people forget about and they don't realize, did you know that I think it's deep heat, they've got cajeput. They actually use cajeput in deep heat. So cajeput is a really good one if you've got muscular problems. But it's all the stuff that you use for cleaning, pine, lemon.
Yeah. I was going to say that they're very good for that as well.
Yeah, they're antiseptic, they're antibacterial. They're quite interesting. And people don't realize that that's what's actually going in their products. So then when they look at it and they see essentialized then as a kind of a separate thing. But actually you're using them all the time. You just don't know because you don't read your ingredients.
But you were saying earlier, sorry, go on.
Go on.
I was going to slightly change track, so carry on.
Yeah, no, that's fine, go on.
I was going to say, but you mentioned earlier when you're putting rosemary on the skin, how it can drag in all sorts of things, because if you've got other chemicals on your hand, it'll take those in too. And when I started making changes in my own life, and I was into essential oils, but also just about then realizing everything we put on our skin goes into our bloodstream faster than the things that we eat, because they have to be broken down first. It's 30 seconds. And what do we put on our skins? Things like mineral oil is in such a high percentage, 90 or something percent of skin creams and things, and also finding out other things that go into our skin creams, which I'm not going to go into today. But just to think about, what are we using in our homes? What are we putting on our skins? We don't need all of those chemical components to the creams and things, and they're not good for us. And thinking of, if we're going to use oils, then that they're going to be taken into our bodies as well, and what are those synthetic chemicals going to be doing on our body? But we can actually just source natural products, properly natural products, not products that are allowed to be called green or natural when they really aren't. But things that when you read the labels, you can either recognize them yourself, or you can look them up and find, oh, that's just mint, or it's just, it comes straight from a plant rather than from a laboratory. And when you use those things, you were talking about the links between the different chemicals, and when you blend them, they work well and they support each other and they have a new synergy, and they even work, the sum is better than the total is better than the sum of the parts. I'm not getting that quote very well. But also that our bodies actually have the right receptors. This is what blows my mind as well, because I guess we've all evolved on the earth and we've evolved over time together, but we are set up to receive these things, to interact with these plant materials.
Absolutely.
Because we have the receptors and we have the right enzymes that we can work together. It's another synergy.
But when you moisturize, for example, all you're trying to do is get moisture through a waterproof barrier. So the best thing that you can do is double cleanse your face. The first cleanse will get off all the makeup and all the stuff that you've put on there during the day. The second one is the one that actually goes into your pores and drags out your dirt. And the best thing that you can put on your face, believe it or not, to get dirt out of it is castor oil.
Wow.
Yeah. Anything with castor. I have a jojoba cleansing lotion that I use with my facials in clinic. And there's castor oil in it. And it's so funny because people will cleanse this bit of their face. So that comes off fairly clean when I do it. And then I go down here and I come across here and my cotton wool is black. Mm-hmm. And I say, open your eyes and have a look at this. And they go, wow, I did wash, honestly.
Yeah. Where on earth did you get that from?
Yeah. But it's because it's dragging. It attracts dirt and it drags. So castor oil is one of the very best things you can use to get dirt out of your skin in terms of your pores. It's
all
like
sorts this morning.
It's like a magnet. It's really good, like a magnet.
So then can you, lastly then, just sum up by letting us know how people can find you, where they can find you?
Well, I'm based over in Blackwood, which is not too far from you, so I can kind of wave over the mountain in South Wales. I'm the only clinical aromatherapist in the area, so I'm not too difficult to find. I'm on Google. We have the website. We also have a Facebook page. I've got Twitter and Insta. So if you type in Aroma Oils UK, somewhere along the line, something should pop up. You can also phone me if you need anything. I'm quite happy to give you some advice. That's no problem at all. You know, there's no obligation ever to buy anything because ultimately people need to trust you and they need to know you before, you know, you expect them to engage with you on that level. And that's absolutely fine. So yeah, it's our 1 year anniversary coming up now in October. So we have an offer on at the minute. So if you come for an aroma back massage and you bring a friend with you who also has an aroma back massage, then you get yours half price because I thought it would be nice to celebrate. And a back one is quite nice because it's half an hour and you actually get to sort of chill out as well.
Fantastic. And I believe you also have an amazing competition that's going to be running too.
Yeah, on the website there is a tab for competition, and please do have a look at it because it's to win a £500 wellbeing prize. So it's £300 worth of massages. So as long as you can get to Blackwood, then you get your massages. You get £150 worth of different blends. So you know it's what you want. If you want beauty stuff, I can make you some beauty stuff. If you want therapeutic stuff, for any aches and pains or whatever, I can make you that as well. And you also get £50 to spend in the shop. We did run it, and then Facebook had a hissy fit because it changed all the, they were messing around in the background. So we kind of had to put it on hold a little bit, but I'm hoping now come sort of the end of September, beginning of October, it'll be back up and running. But it is open for everybody and it's free to enter. So it might be worth having a look at that one.
And you mentioned there about people getting to know you, and I completely appreciate that. But as part of that, you have a fantastic blog on your website, and you share it other places as well. And for people who are part of this Wild Wisdom Wellbeing group, you'll have seen Jan posting some of her fabulous blog posts in the group. So yeah, that's a great way to get to know Jan and your personality and the kinds of
yes, when
that's
technology so again.
It's so important, isn't it? Because we want, particularly in well-being, we want to know who we're going to be working with and what sort of things they offer, what it's like to work with that person.
I think it's very important. And I do tend to sort of, sometimes I do have a bit of a rant on my blogs, which is quite funny. I do try and make them as entertaining as I can and also to give you some information on them. You know, I've got to finish off my series on chakras because I've only done a couple of those, so they have to be finished. So I shall get on with them. At the moment, we're looking at stress, which is quite useful.
Very, very good for the times we're in at the moment. Yeah. And I think that's just it, because reading it, you do get a sense of the person behind the writing, because you do have bits of humor in there, and it just, it's human. It's written in a very human, conversational sort of a style, which I like.
Yeah, well, this is me sat at my computer going, oh, that's happened again. Bother.
Bother.
Well, I don't say bother, but I'm on camera.
But Jan, it's been lovely having you. Thank you so much for all that you've shared. Lots of great tips in there, and a competition, and an anniversary kind of celebration as well. I think that's amazing, and well
I
done.
think
On
we'll see
such a
whether
good
I was
first
brave
year.
or stupid, but we'll get there. But thank you very much for having me. It's been a pleasure.
So thank you all for tuning in. If you're watching on the replay, just stick in a #replay. I'll pop in links for Jan below, and if you've got any questions, please do either get in touch with me or message Jan directly. So I'll be on here again shortly. Just keep an eye out in the group and you'll see who the next guest is and when they will be joining me. Bye for now. Have a great week.
Bye.